Okay, game 3 here, and there are quite a few interesting things on the board. There's rats with fortress, so you could trash those fortresses with your rats and not have to trash any of your good cards. There's Swindler, but Swindler is not as good here because there's rats you could defend yourself with as well as fortress. I still go for the Swindler because it's a good card and it's silver, right? Ball is something to take note of because there's lots of nice things you can get. You can get double fortress with ball, couple great halls if you want, forager if you like. Forager is okay here, probably good, but I think rats, you want to choose rats as your trasher over forager just because it'll get the job done a lot more quickly. And you don't really want the plus buy. There's butcher for gain. Butcher is always a big game card. There's Transmogrify as well, which I think this is actually a very good board for Transmogrify. You could burn your fortresses, right, into 5 costs, stables, butcher if you like. You could burn the rats into the same thing. Even duchies is a 5 cost card. So I think Transmogrify is a big player here as well. So I open with the rats and the Swindler here. I think that's decent to get me up to 5, and it will get my trashing started at this point. I believe my opponent goes the same way here after a bit of deliberation. The rats and the Swindler opening. So rats for me here. 3 here, I do pick up another Swindler, even though I know it's not good, but I don't know, I like double Swindler. But here it's probably okay to go without this Swindler. Maybe silver is just better, maybe forager. But I do pick up the second Swindler here after some deliberation of my own. So we have that going on, double Swindler, and 5 here, well 6 actually, is going to be a butcher for me. So I have 3 terminals in my deck. I kind of bought the Swindler there because I anticipated my opponent playing Swindler on me and maybe my Swindler will get lost. So I wanted to pick up a spare, so to speak. But as it ends up happening, he just hits an estate of mine, and that is excellent. I can't ask for a better thing to happen to me with the Swindler. I managed to convert one of his coppers into a curse, which is good, cut the economy down, and here he passes, so that is dreadful. I can't imagine what he would have in his hand. But here I'm going to play these couple of rats, going to choose the copper and the second rats here because I want to leave the estate for the butcher, and it'll get me a fortress at this time. No, I think I'm considering the Transmogrify, but fortress would be an excellent consideration as well, given the 3 terminals in my deck. So that down comes the Transmogrify, which, like I said, I think is is a powerful card in general, but here it has a lot more scope, I believe. So the butcher comes down for my opponent. They picked up one on their last turn or so, I believe, last turn before, and converts an estate into a Transmogrify. The Swindler catches another copper here, which is good. I'm having good luck with the Swindler so far. And with 5, going to buy a ball this time instead of the butcher for a couple fortresses. I desperately need those fortresses now, especially with the butcher in my deck, the 3 terminals, and what else? There's something else there, the Transmogrify, right? The Transmogrify. So my opponent hits one of my rats here, causing me to draw a card into another Swindler. But and I get a bureaucrat in exchange, so I think that's a big plus for me, getting the bureaucrat. That as a joke, don't take that seriously. Bureaucrat, I think, has very little to do on this board. There's nothing really to do with it here. So rats draws me into a fortress, luckily. So I could trash the fortress, but I want to keep getting thinner. So that is why I get rid of the copper. Play a couple swindlers here over the butcher. Maybe I should have played one swindler and a butcher, but I went for the double swindle play. I catch an estate, which isn't great, but I catch a copper, which is good, and it gives me enough money to pick up a ball here. Ball is going to give me a fortress and another Transmogrify. I kind of want to go a bit heavy on the Transmogrifies in this game. If I could, manage to squeeze in 2 or 3, that'll be very, very good for me there. So, rats for my opponent followed by a butcher. And they convert one of their rats here into a fortress, so they have a couple point tokens to spare now. And just going to try to trim this deck as much as possible. And actually, I set aside the Transmogrify, and actually, I am going to play this Bureaucrat. Nope, 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 that is into the future. My apologies. I could have played that Bureaucrat though, but you'll see me play it later, and I'll explain why. Right, so I have my Transmogrify down, so now I have to think about using it here. I could convert this rat into a fortress. I have double terminals, as is. Or I could convert it into a stables if I like, a butcher maybe. I could get rid of one of the terminals that way. So we'll see when the turn comes around, but I definitely feel like I should call it on the rats, primarily because I'll draw a card. And then I can see what my hand looks like and then gain something accordingly. Ball for my opponent is going to be a couple of fortresses, and that rat just draws me into a copper here. So I do get the fortress at this point to be able to play all my terminals. And double Swindler again. Now this Swindler is starting to be quite bad, right? I hit a fortress, so he draws that, and I hit a rat, so he draws another card. So he has a 7-card hand here. So that is not great at all. Butcher doesn't do anything for me, but I still have money to pick up a ball here, going for another fortress and another Transmogrify. So one detail of this game is that the piles are going to run very quickly. Fortresses are in high demand, and the rats will drain itself as rats does. So those are 2 piles. Transmogrify is being hit kind of hard right now. There are 6 estates left, so that could happen. Here, that pile could go down is what I mean. So here, my opponent hits my Transmogrify, and I was a little bit saddened or disheartened. I'm displeased to see that Transmogrify. Like I said, I think is one of the more crucial cards here. Could be worse. He could have nicked my Butcher, and that would have just been dreadful. Well, it wouldn't be so bad. I could get back one here on this hand with the Transmogrify call, of course, but you know, I want to have 2 Butchers in my deck at least, maybe even 3. There's all this trash for benefit going around here, so it's quite a long turn for my opponent. They go through a lot of the deck, if not, yeah, they see everything in their deck here, and with 3, they pick up a Great Hall. So I get why they picked up the Great Hall. The piles are going down, but 2 piles are going down, right? Fortress and rats. There's not really a 3rd pile that could go down so quickly. So here, I trash a rats with the Butcher, and I pick up... what do I pick up? Something, a fortress maybe, I'm not sure. But I do trash the rats just to draw the card, and now I'm starting to play rats and trash fortress with it because, yeah, I don't really want to get too many more rats in my deck, and having the odd copper so is not terrible, particularly because there's stables on the board. And speaking of stables, I hit my opponent's Butcher and I give him a stables because last turn I saw he just had this silver. But yeah, I think giving him the Panda Misfits was actually better here, and giving him the silver. Bureaucrat gives me some information. I see his hand is full of rats and a fortress and a Butcher though, so he should be good for this turn. And right, I didn't play the Bureaucrat to see his hand. I played the Bureaucrat to top deck a silver because what I plan to do next turn is Transmogrify one of my 4 costs into a stables and draw with it. So that is the play I was making mention of a little bit earlier on. That is a little trick with Bureaucrat, so it's not totally useless in your deck at this point. I do pick up the last fortress here, even though it drains the pile, and my opponent drains the rat's pile here. So when I saw this, I thought, wait, do they have a win? Did I miss something somewhere? But I don't think so, especially after I nicked off their Butcher there. So they have 1 gain off the Butcher. Maybe they had 1 on the map from Transmogrify, and then the ball will give them 2 more. So I don't think they could empty the game. They don't have the Forager. I have a Forager now, I believe. I picked up 1 last turn off the ball. Forager on rats is good. I could draw a card off of it. I could get plus buy. and there's a silver floating around, right? So that could get trashed. My forager could be worth a little bit more money, get some value out of it that way, right? So another long turn for my opponent here, getting the Swindler out. It just turns one of my bureaucrats into another bureaucrat. Now that pile is low. Can he end the game on bureaucrats maybe? I still don't think so. I don't think they have enough. The butcher comes out, converts a bureaucrat into a province, and picks up a great hall after getting rid of the bureaucrat. So here, I just draw a little bit to see if I can find one of my coppers. I would rather discard the copper to the stables, of course, than the silver, and I do find it, so I'm able to get some draw in with the stables, which is huge. Huge. You need a little bit of draw in this deck to make it sing that much more. And so I get the draw in, and I'm gonna butcher up this fortress into a province at this point because the piles are really looking dangerously low. Maybe I could have ended it here, I'm not sure. I don't think I could have with favorable victory points, of course. And here I misplay a little bit. I could have picked up a double province, especially because after the Swindler play, I hit one of his silvers. So now a silver is in the trash. It makes my forager worth 2 at this point. There, for cost, I turn it into a Transmogrify because I don't think he could make use of it fast enough before the game ends, that is. So here, I know the forager's left in my deck, but instead of going to look for it, and I should have gone to look for it, I probably would have gotten to it. Had I gotten to it, I could have picked up a second province here. Instead, I make the more conservative play, trash the fortress into a duchy. And you see here I have 7 coins with the coin tokens. Of course, I could have picked up the second province, but I didn't make the play. Because I wasn't paying attention. The Swindler, right? The Swindler put a silver in the bin for me. I made my forager worth more. Good job, Swindler. So here, my opponent calls Transmogrify and Rats. And now this is again terrifying. Because they gained the duchy, and I was thinking, oh, do they have a win on duchies now? Did I get too many duchies? So I see the Great Hall come out. And I see a bit of thinking, I was like, oh my god, are they calculating a win? I hope not, because I could do the same stables thing here. I could get our stables here and draw a little bit, and if I draw more, I'll have more flexibility with my butcher, of course. So I could potentially have a good turn here. So rats, fortress, and then I think this is where my opponent's turn ends because they play 2 terminals. I believe the butcher and maybe the Swindler, I'm not sure. So the butcher converts a rat, no, 2 butchers actually. They regained one of their butchers that, remember I trashed one, so they regained that some point, and 2 rats get converted into 2 duchies. Now the duchy pile is low. I'm not sure if it was right to lower the duchy pile so much because after some calculation I realized I have the win in hand. Burn this rats into duchy, and well, I burned the rats first, of course, because I wanted to gain our stables, but seeing me draw these stables now, I realized that I have the win because I could get a duchy of the transmogrified rats, play butcher on stables, get duchy, and then just buy out the last duchy here. So that is how the game ends, and that's game 3. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.